This is going to be the Shattered Halls as a Fire Mage. Pretty cool dungeon. Showed it a while ago on my healer. Showing it again here on this character because there were some pretty interesting group dynamics that happened during this dungeon. So, you know, the dungeons, running dungeons in this game as different roles is one thing. I get a little bit of variability there, but the real variability in this game comes from the different people you end up playing with. Sometimes you get groups that just, I don't know, make things interesting in some way or another. Alright, so Tuft there. Looks like a Paladin, Protection Paladin tank. The healer is... Let's see, is that Druid stuff on the ground? Full as fast as you want, he says. So highly confident healer, ready for anything. Yeah, that looks more like Druid stuff than Shaman stuff. Okay. So Restoration Druid, Protection Paladin, me as a Fire Mage. I see, is that a Rogue? Or a Monk? Oh boy, what am I seeing? There's a Warrior. That's a Monk. Okay, so Windwalker and... how many weapons is this warrior holding? 2? Okay, so Fury Warrior. Got it. Okay. So familiar stuff. So it looks like my action bar and stuff hasn't changed too much. Again, this is pretty much just the toolkit that a fire mage gets. Not a whole lot changes past this point as far as I know. Maybe at much later levels, but this is Fire Mage as I know it. So interesting nuance of... Fire Starter, the talent I took that makes all fireballs and pyroblasts deal critical strikes when your target is above 90% health. Something I've noticed is if I used a fireball there when I had a hot streak instead of just firing off the pyroblast. Something I noticed is that if I shoot off my pyroblast as soon as my fireball has launched, even if the fireball brings the thing down below 90% health, both it and the pyroblast will always get a critical strike. Oh hey! I must be level 78 here now because I'm seeing Mastery kick in. So I have Mastery now. Ignite, I think it's called. So my fire spells now... Okay, I used Invisibility to drop some of the attention on me. I'm not super familiar with how Fire Mage Mastery works. This character at recording time is only level 81, so she hasn't gone much past this. But fire spells now apply a burning debuff that deals a little bit of extra damage over time. Yeah, so Paladin, not too happy with the way that went. I think it must have been that our... Wait, do we have 2 Paladins? No, I just... 2 male Tauren, they look the same. I assume the Druid pulled in some extra dudes to make the encounter more interesting. So yeah, clearly this tank was not comfortable with the stuff that was going on here. I can tell. Feeling a little overextended. Everything went fine. But, you know, I did have to use my invisibility to stay safe there. So, like, when playing as a tank, your job is just to tame the chaos that's going on, and pulling in an extra group, everybody else getting threat, contributes to that chaos. Even if the healer can keep up, it just doesn't feel great to have that control taken away from you. Like, as a tank, you really want sole control over positioning, and when combat starts and ends. Well, combat ends when things die, but when combat starts. So I understand I understand the position of both, you know. I play healer, I play tank. Sometimes as a healer I want more buttons to push, sometimes as a tank I want everybody else to do fewer things to contribute to the chaos I'm trying to keep under control. So I get perspective of both of these people. Kinda wish I had some button I could just push over and over to do damage to multiple targets without having to wait for long cooldowns. Because I have Dragon's Breath and I have Flame Strike when Hot Streak is up. I guess I can just hardcast Flame Strike, but in a party, everything has moved away from where I've targeted that location by the time it finishes casting, because it's a really long cast. So yeah, once I've burned through my Dragon's Breath and fire Flame Strike if my Hot Streak is up, then I'm just stuck with single target, even in situations like that. It's fine, though. Just one of the only real weaknesses I feel as a fire mage. I'm pretty good at other things, though, so I'll take the trade-off. Alright, so getting all my stuff going. Combustion right before the fireball goes off. Rune of Power. Not sure on my Rune of Power timing. There might be ways I can refine that further, but this works pretty well. So good initial burst. At this level, with how quickly dungeon bosses die, I'm not going to get 2 combustions during one combat. I can get up to 3 runes of power, I think. Maybe not during this fight. Could certainly have 2, though. I was ready for that thing to appear at my location. I moved out of it immediately. People are not moving out of the Blade Storm here. Somebody died for it. Yeah, so Dark Spin, he just does that forever and keeps shooting out Shadow Bolts periodically, so yeah, I guess melee just doesn't really get to do much during that fight, huh? The last little bit of it. I knew what to do now! You gotta do that to collect the Fell Ember. Cause yeah, that was a problem the first time I was here. Well, not the first time, but you know, the last time I was here. Gotta actively go and collect the quest item. Yeah, so I guess the item to collect the thing doesn't show up on the side there where my quests are listed, just because it's something I have to pick up from Grand Warlock Nethercurse. If an item shows up at in the quest summary, it's usually because it was given to me when I picked up the quest, and I can use it to help me complete it. Things I get mid-quest, well, sometimes they do. I don't know. Hand of Freedom, yeah, I know that one. Paladin ability removes all movement impairing effects, so since he had a slow on him, he could just use that and not have it anymore. At this point, every specialization in this party is something that I play except for Windwalker. And I'm gonna learn that at some point. Whirlwind makes some funny noises on these orcs when he uses it. Over and over, like you're not really supposed to do as a Fury Warrior. You can land in a situation where after one Bloodthirst, everything else is on cooldown, so you do 2 Whirlwinds in a row, but you don't usually want to see 3 in a row, unless you're on like 25 targets at once or something. Alright, so another spot here where you have to go a little bit out of your way to get quest things done. I'm watching closely to see what the group leader's going to decide to do. I know he's already feeling a little bit uncomfortable, so I don't want to contribute to that too much, but I do want to get the quest done. So yeah, off to the side you need to kill, it's 2 Shattered Hand Centurions. There are 4 scattered around these pockets here, I think, on the left and right. 1 for each. So I figure he goes on to the second 2 pockets, and we'll just kill them over there. Oh, I spell stole a thing. That's nice. I want to make sure we go for those. So I set a skull icon on that, to make sure people are aware of them. That's easily missed, though. Yeah, I roll over to make sure everybody's on the quest. They are, so they're gonna want to get it done. As far as I know, those 4 are the only ones in the dungeon, so you have to kill them there or else it won't happen. So time to communicate. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. It's with an O, not an A. Okay, now I know. Wait, somebody died? For what? What did he do? Huh. I looked away for a moment and wasn't sure. Okay, well, he's back. Yeah, Paladin just wants to move on, but nobody else does. Gotta go back here. Somebody already managed to kill one of them. So they have half of this quest done somehow. Oh man, I pulled that off some... Oh, okay. Interesting. How did that manage to happen? 1 fireball at the beginning of... that must not have been targeted by his shield or something. That doesn't usually happen if I initiate an attack after combat has already started. Huh. Guess I could have waited slightly longer. Yeah, and at this point he just decides to leave. Feeling too uncomfortable, I guess, with everything that was going on. You know, people trying for a different route. Pulling in extra stuff in the middle of combat because the healer wanted more to do. So yeah, I feel like I contributed that to some extent, but I mean, what else was I going to do? It was unusual that I pulled thread off of him there, and, you know, everybody wants to get the Centurions done, so, I don't know, just kind of unfortunate that the situation and just little things, I interpret it as these little things added up to make that particular paladin just a little too uncomfortable and just decide, you know what, this is not worth it, I'm not in the mood, I'm just going to leave. And drop group. Which is fine, you know, it's his choice, he can do that. So again, super confident healer decides that we don't need a tank. And for this particular boss, that kind of makes sense because he does a thing. After he loses a little bit more health, he'll say, me kill this one now, or something, and go decide to focus on somebody. What are you doing? Okay. He can say different things. Right. Anyway, so targeting doesn't really matter so much because he can just decide to target whoever he wants to. So yeah, this is totally fine to do with just the 4 of us. But now this druid says we don't need a tank at all for the rest of this. And we are in the queue, so we could get one at any moment, but tank queue times, as always, well, queue times for the rest of us when we're waiting for a tank do tend to be long. Queue times for a tank are almost always instant, just because everybody's always waiting for them. The most underfilled role. If someone is queuing for a specific dungeon, rather than just saying, accepting a random dungeon in a certain range, they will be notified before they enter the dungeon which one they're going into and how many bosses are killed. So anyone queuing specific dungeon for Shattered Halls might see, your dungeon is ready, Shattered Halls, 3 out of 4 bosses killed. And if they're really interested in a fresh dungeon, they might decide to reject that. Boy, this warrior managed to take a lot of damage all at once. Even as a mage, I don't take that much, somehow. Huh. Yeah, so they might decide they want a fresh dungeon. Man, I'm just not allowed to do anything here. And reject that invitation. That's when you would see inside this dungeon, someone has declined the invitation, you've been returned to the front of the dungeon queue. If they had queued for a random dungeon, they would not know whether it's in progress or not. So when you queue random, you just have to be ready for whatever. Maybe it'll be in progress, maybe it'll be almost done, maybe it won't be the dungeon you wanted, it can just be anything in your range. So you really have to be ready if you queue random, but that's why you get extra rewards for it. Just be ready for anything. Anyway, so what ends up happening here is a tank never queues up in the rest of the time we're in this dungeon. Turns out, Solokin there was right. We can totally get the rest of this dungeon done without a tank. It's interesting. I feel like everybody pays a little more attention through this phase of it. Right, yeah, there are rogues here who want to sap anybody who walks close to them. So as you walk through this hallway, you're going to see a little swirl go over your head, you get incapacitated for a while. It'll happen a couple of more times, because it always does, like that. It's fine, that's just how you go through this hallway. Probably one more? Yep, one more. Two more, actually. Okay. This warrior really loves his whirlwind button. So none of the rest of us are really playing the tank role. I'm the least suited for it since I'm a mage. We do have a monk and a warrior who could kind of sort of do it, but like, you know, if you're not in the specialization, there's only so much you can do to hold threats. It's just going to go to whoever is dealing the most damage at the moment. Alright, and we're at, what's his name, Kargath Bladefist. Soon as our warrior's back. As confident as this healer is, he doesn't quite have the throughput to keep 3 damage dealers alive when they're taking all of this damage. He's doing his best, doing a pretty good job. But we do still have a bunch of deaths going on here. So yeah, it looks like I am the tank here because I'm doing the most damage at the moment. That's fine. I could be moving around more. It'd be more annoying for the melee party members, though. I'm making some really unhappy noises, though, taking all these hits. Oh, man. And yeah, kind of like Warbringer Omrog, he has a mechanic that doesn't matter who his target is, he'll just dash around and attack whoever he wants to. So yeah, of all the places for a tank to leave, that was a pretty okay one, honestly. Yeah, Druid using his Entangling Roots. Interestingly, that guard is not bashing on me, even though I'm a viable combat target and he was right next to me. Huh. That was not the button I wanted. I featherfalled instead of polymorphing. Whoops. Happens a lot. It's up there on an action bar. I can't see what number it is when I'm aiming for it. I usually hit 3 instead of 4. Fortunately, Featherfall doesn't, take too long. I should really teach my fingers which is which, though. There we go. War Chief Kargath Bladefist is down. Got a couple of guards. One is still a sheep. Does he ever run away? I don't know. One of them ran away. I assume the one that is a sheep will run away when he stops being a sheep. Yeah, so that was an interesting way to get Shattered Halls done. So yeah, I feel kind of bad for what happened to Tuft there, but I don't know, it happens sometimes. Just the dynamics of the situation made him uncomfortable, I guess. Alright, see you for next one.